What's up, brothers? Hope everyone's doing well out there. I'm just out here chilling. Had a surprise torrential downpour a few hours ago, and I didn't think I'd be able to make a video, but suddenly the sun came back out. It's about 60 degrees, so it's kind of cool, but for some reason it feels warmer. Feels nice. So, rather enjoyable day. I figured I'd turn the camera on and shoot the shit with you guys for a little while. And I have a couple of video requests that I need to get to, and figured I'd conquer those right here, right now, because they pretty much both ask the same thing. And one of the guys asked me if I would go in depth about avoidant attachment styles. The other guy asked if I would make a video discussing why women keep men around after they break up with them. And truth be told, that's the exact same subject. So we're going to get to the point of it, the point of the matter. Now, first of all, if you're one of these guys that's going down this rabbit hole of avoidant attachment styles and narcissistic personality disorders and things like that, you got to understand there's a very small percentage of people that have those disorders, and it's pretty irrelevant for you to study it. There's no point. Because the truth of the matter is, there's been a phenomenon going on. And this goes for all of us, everyone out there. And this phenomenon is that women, due to having an abundance of options, especially here in the United States or the UK or Canada or Australia, but progressing worldwide, they have this tendency to talk to men, push them away periodically, but keep them all on the hook. And I know you guys are thinking, well, that sounds like narcissistic personality disorder, but it's not. It's normal. It's normal for people to explore their options. And it's just the truth of the matter that women have a lot of options. So they're exploring them. You might as well not complain about it. You might as well just understand that that's the way the game is played. And, you could even go as far as to say that with the dating apps, with the hookup culture, it's almost like there's a parasite infecting the minds of most people out there that eats away at their morality. When you get a taste of corruption and you realize how fun it is, it's pretty hard to shake it off. The temptation and the ability to satisfy those temptations is difficult for people to overcome, right? Anyways, that's just a little food for thought before we get into it. So let me start out with a little story for you. About 11 or 12 years ago, a friend of mine, when I had first moved to Tulsa, had just got back from the Marines. He graduated high school, went to the Marines for a few years, I don't know. Came back home when they made it available for him to do it. And he linked back up with a girl that he went to high school with, and the three of us all went to the same gym. I went there at about 8 a.m. His fiancée wife went there about that same time. He usually came in a little bit later. And the two of them had a kid together. Anyways, this other guy came back around who had played Division I college football at Oklahoma University. He was a linebacker. Not going to say who, but he played football for Oklahoma University. That's a Division I blue blood, one of the best in college football teams. Highly. You have to be an elite player to go there, I'll put it like that. And he went to the NFL for a few years. He wasn't a star by any means, but he went to the NFL and he made him a few $1 million and got cut. And he was back in Tulsa. And he started coming to the gym about the same time me and my friend's wife went there. And every day at the end of her workout, she would get on the stair stepper. And she'd spend about 30 minutes on the stair stepper. So every time she'd get on the stair stepper, this guy would walk up to her and just stand there and talk to her and shoot his shot and flirt with her. He'd stand there for 20 minutes on end, just talking to her. Richest guy in the gym, 6'5", physical specimen, looks like a Greek god. Pro athlete, they're not normal, they're built different caliber of dude. So, he was kind of a, your typical alpha douchebag. He liked flexing. He could flex. He could mog everyone, and he was proud to do it. He was happy to do it, right? So he went up. He was going to steal my friend's wife away. He just didn't give a shit. He didn't want to respect boundaries. And I'll tell you what, every time he would walk up to her, her face would light up like she was so excited to see him. You know what I'm talking about, that look when hypergamy is being satisfied, when a woman sees a man and he's well above what she's used to. So anyways, he would continue to shoot his shot for months on end. Nothing ever happened. And eventually one day, she just gave him the cold shoulder. If he came around, she would give him a dirty look, a stone face, resting bitch face, walk away from him. Just avoid him like the plague. Like she just fucking despised this guy. Excuse my language, some of you guys don't like me cussing, but this guy, when she did this, it was quite the sight to see, because he became this depressed and sad and, shot to his ego. He just looked like this weak, crybaby, pitiful simp of a man. A physical specimen that, the ultimate alpha male of a physical specimen, but the mind of a beta simp, an insecure beta simp. It's quite the sight to see. It's sickening to look at, to be honest with you, but you got to be honest, the guy deserved it. It was nice to see. So anyways, you probably wonder why I'm telling you this story, and I'm telling you this story because that's what a healthy attachment looks like. By the way, that's the norm. That's the norm. Probably 55% of women are like that. They're not looking to monkey branch and leave you and be hypergamous. Most of them are pretty decent women once they get attached to you. But the problem is, it's more difficult than ever now to get a woman attached to you. We just got to be honest. That's the biggest thing that men are struggling with. And basically in real time, the reason why this is becoming such an issue and such a problem for guys is because, I'll put it like this. When you take a person, it doesn't have to be a woman, it could be a man or a woman, and you throw them out there in the hookup culture. And everybody, at least when I was in high school, everybody went through a hoe phase. Not just women, men did too. Everybody was doing it. And then when it was time to settle down, it was difficult for a lot of people to make that change. Like I said, their brains get infected. It's very difficult to switch up. But most of the women from my generation, most of them that I know who were single back when I was single, 21 years old, I'll put it like this. they do settle down and they do get married, but when they're still infected with that bug, you they want to cheat. You know, they want to hook up. They want to have all these flings on the side. So, you know, once they've been introduced to that hookup culture, it's kind of like, you know, the marriage thing. You can be a guy that wants to chase a woman and pursue a woman that's just not willing to settle for you. And you can make up all the excuses and say she has an avoidant attachment style, or she's a narcissist, or whatever you want to call her. But in reality, you know, eventually you have to come to grips with the fact that you're putting yourself in a situation where you're allowing yourself to be manipulated if that's what you're doing. And if you find this relatable and you think that this is, you know, like I'm lambasting you right now, maybe it's what you need to hear. Because realistically, when a woman actually likes you, when a woman wants to attach to you, she fights to keep you around. My mom and the woman that lived next door, my mom's friend, when I was about 17 or 18 years old, I remember we were sitting on the patio and it was just me and the two of them. And I know typically they say that a man shouldn't be taking dating advice from a woman. But, you know, they put me up on some serious game. They said, you know, be careful. A lot of women will try to trap you. I say, you know, what do you mean? I say, you name it. You know, the head honcho of trapping is a pregnancy. You know, maybe they could even fake a pregnancy. They could try to shame you and guilt you into staying with them. I can't believe you told me you loved me and blah, 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 and just, you know, take shots at your character. They'll do whatever they can do to guilt trip you or trap you into staying with them when they really like you. And women out there watching, I don't mean that in a bad way. I just mean when a woman is dedicated to keeping you, she can be ruthless about accomplishing that. And if you're a guy that's pursuing a woman, trying to make it happen, and she's just not attaching, and she doesn't have that level of attachment to you, you know, what are you really doing? You know, if she's pushing you away but keeping you on the hook, she's still talking to you and she's still leading you on and giving you a chance, you have to ask yourself, why is it you're falling for that? Why is it it's so easy to manipulate you? You know, I think roughly maybe 15 to 20% of people do have an avoidant attachment style. For those of you that don't know what that means, you know, let's say, for example, let's say you see a stray dog walking down the street. You know, dogs are a unique animal because they attach to humans very easily. So, you see a stray dog, if it has a healthy psyche, and it's just a normal, healthy dog, all you really have to do is be like, come here, come here. You know, maybe hand it a treat. And that dog will instantly bond with you. You know, it will put its life on the line for you. It'll bark and be your alarm system. It'll keep you company. All you really got to do is feed it, give it shelter, and it'll be with you forever until it passes. But sometimes you see a dog that has an avoidant attachment style. So, you know, maybe the dog is walking down the street and it's kind of looking at you sideways, like staring around the corner, like looking at you like it's on alert, you know, all like bent up and weird looking. And it looks at you like it's intrigued. It wants to bond with you. But at the same time, it's afraid and it's curious. So it's afraid, curious, it's on alert in case it needs to bite you or run away, fight or flight. But it wants to bond with you. And it is this way because it's been traumatized in its past. Maybe it's been abused. Maybe it's been hit by a car. You know, kids were screwing around with it, messing with its head, mistreating it. I don't know, but a dog like that is going to have an avoidant attachment style. So you could make the decision. You could say, you know what, I actually like this dog better. It has more character for some reason. I'm drawn to this dog more for some reason. So you bring that dog in the house. And, it's a special character. You can hold it near and dear to your heart, but you always kind of know. You got to be on alert with this dog, because this dog will, it'll snap on your company. It'll bite somebody. It's unhinged. You don't really know what it's going to do. You might be petting it and it bites you. You try to feed it and it's like scared to eat. It doesn't want to listen. It's something about it is not right. So people that do have avoidant attachment styles or even narcissistic personality disorders, they're kind of like that. And sure, you can hold them near and dear to your heart, and you can say, well, I'm going to try to work with this person and figure out why they are the way they are and figure out a way to make this a normal relationship. But I think you would do yourself a lot of justice just by asking yourself, what is it about me that draws me to these type of individuals? Why don't I like normal individuals? Maybe there's some trauma going on with me. That's a good way to look at that, but who knows? But people can be a little bit traumatized based on their past. Let's be honest about that. When I was in high school, I used to, there was this class, this teacher that I had, and this teacher really didn't like me for some reason. I never really understood why. But me and my friends would have the same exact answers on our papers, doing our homework, and he would grade me slightly lower than them. Didn't make sense. Look at it and say, we have the exact same answers. You gave them a 95% and you gave me a 82%. Doesn't make any sense. And this one time I was in class and he started screaming at me, telling me to shut up. And it was odd because I hadn't said a word. He said, I don't know what you're talking about. I haven't made a sound. And he said, are you calling me a liar? And he kicked me out of the class. I went to the principal's office and I ended up getting suspended for the rest of the week. And I really didn't make a sound. It made no sense to me that this guy hated me so much, and he would he would do that. I was a kid, But this kind of traumatized me a little bit with the education system. Like, it took me a while to get back on track. Thankfully, I had a good family and good football coaches and good people in my corner, but it's one of those things, like, nobody wanted to believe me. Some people in the class knew it was true, but, like, it was one of those situations where it's like, I can't trust people here. And, it took me a little while to get back on track, but I suppose, there's a lot of people out there that have been used and abused in relationships, and they hold that same traumatized mentality towards other people. So, it depends on how you want to judge it, but I'd say a good 80% of the time when you're dealing with somebody that's keeping you on the hook while they're pushing you away, it's because she has a lot of dudes. And I don't mean that like, I know that's like, sounds very basic, but I can't tell you how many women that I've met when they were single, on the dating apps, worked with them at the gym, out at bars, clubs, exchange numbers and social medias. And we maybe date briefly. Maybe we hook up a couple of times or something. And even when I see that they're in relationships or they're married or whatever, I'm in a relationship, they'll still reach out. You know, it's like what's done has already been done. It doesn't matter that they're married now because they've already been with people in the past, so they can make an excuse and hook up with somebody that they've been with in the past because, you know, it's nothing new. They've already done it before. You know, I know that sounds stupid. You say, well, once they get married, they shouldn't be going back and doing that, but you know, I don't make the rules and I don't control people or tell people what to do. I'm just telling you what I see happening. And it's crazy the amount, and I don't recommend that you do this, but I just recommend that you know that this is the world that we're living in. You know, if you're pursuing a woman and she's keeping you on the hook, but she's not, you know, progressing things and wanting to commit to you, you kind of got to imagine, you know, there might be some other dude that while she's with you, he might reach out and just be like, you know, why don't you, like he might literally directly say, you gonna come cheat on your boyfriend with me? Some shit like that, right? Like literally word it like that. Send her a text like, why don't you drop the little boyfriend of yours and, you know, come hook up with me, and she, you know, she might go and do it. Now, men cheat probably just as much as women do, so any women watching this, I'm not picking on women in general. This is just advice catered towards men. And in reality, in the good old hookup culture, that's the way things work. But, you know, I made a video in the past called Low Trust Dating Market, and I was trying to tell you guys, like 50% of people, they're not even in the dating market. They're in marriage culture. You know, they're not looking to hook up and have sex. They're looking to settle down and start families. When you're out here in the hookup culture, this is just the way the game is, man. It's brutal. And, you know, good luck. Survival of the fittest. That's why it's important, you know, if a woman is not trying to attach to you, but she's trying to keep you around, you know, she's probably not part of that marriage culture. I think that's a big red flag there that should tell you that. And you know, the best dating coaches and pickup artists, when I say the best, I mean like the guys that are really hyper focused on getting laid and getting you laid, and you know, the cool approach and the choosing signals and fucking whatever, all the shit that they talk about, right? The most prominent pickup artists and dating coaches out there have all transitioned to talking about open relationships. You know, they've transitioned into this way of thinking that their wife or their girlfriend can hook up with other dudes and they're going to hook up with other women. Battery died, I had to put a new one in. But yeah, I think I was saying, you know, what's being pushed out there with most modern dating advice is, you know, the open relationship thing. Some guys are so alpha, they say closed on my end, open on her end, but most of them are saying, you know, just be open altogether. I don't like that. I don't like the idea of that. I don't like feeling dirty, feeling filthy, like worried about having an STD or something after every time I have sex. So that's not what I'm really into, but you know, some of them promote it. But if you're somebody out there that wants a real relationship, and I can't shame you, I'm not going to call you a simp. I'm not going to call you a beta. I'm not going to say you're, you know, blue-pilled, purple-pilled, whatever. If that's what you want to do, by all means, who am I to judge? Or if you want to be a pickup artist, who am I to judge? You can make whatever decision you want to make, but if you want a relationship, you have to understand how easy and effortless it is when a woman likes you. And rather than trying to chip away and win her over, you need to walk. I'll tell you one quick story before I go. When I was 19 years old, a friend of mine and I were working a job, a temporary job, with some subcontractor, hooking up what they called these AXART adapters on cell phone towers across the East Coast. We went from New York to DC to Outer Banks, North Carolina, to Savannah, Georgia, or Myrtle Beach, Savannah, Georgia, and down to Miami. And, we were just hooking up these little panels and these wires onto cell phone towers to, they were switching over to a new technology. It was 2G, and I don't even know if 3G was out yet, but they were calling it Edge. And it was a upgraded speed that would work with the first iPhone that was about to be released. And during half of our trip, the trip to New York and DC, this girl I was talking to wanted to come with me. Real hot. Name was Rachel. These huge tits, nice big ass, cute, good looking, slim waist. She wanted to come along with. And I had been talking to her for a while. We were not serious, but we were just kind of seeing each other. She came along, and, after that trip, we were together, had a little relationship going on. And whenever we got back to the hometown, she kind of disappeared on me for a few days. And come to find out, her ex-boyfriend had just gotten out of jail. So she went on this trip with me, and, the two of us were screwing every night, having a good old time, and we got back, and she links back up with her boyfriend that got out of jail, right? And I actually, being young and dumb, I admit for whatever reason, I had fallen in love with this girl. And I didn't really know what was going on at the time. I didn't know she had hooked back up with him, but I had heard she had been seen with some other guy or whatnot. But I was kind of naive and, like I said, in love, so I didn't want to really pay attention to what was going on. I didn't want to know the truth. So I went to go see her and, find out what was going on, if I did something wrong. And I was even apologizing and shit when I didn't have anything to apologize for. She told me no. And to be honest, I remember the way she was looking at me when I was trying to, be all soft and take that approach. And that was pitiful. Right? I looked like an insecure simp coming back to her like that. Lesson learned, right? But anyway, she ended up splitting with that guy again and hooking up with some other dude that I knew. And over the course of the next few months, I realized she had hooked up with a good, probably, at least 5 or 6 total guys that I knew kind of around in my circle. She came back to my doorstep one night and she, told me she was sorry and she wanted to talk to me. So I guess you could say this was before social media, but she was pushing guys away and keeping them on the hook as well, right? Same thing. And I told her to fuck off. I called her every name in the book. I fucking went off on her. Told her I didn't ever want to fucking talk to her again. She broke down in tears. She, she was dedicated to getting back with me. I never did take her back, but she was months, maybe years. She was just hovering around, trying to call me, trying to be around where I'm at, trying to work things out, prove she's changed, prove she could be a good person. Never could forgive her, but the reason why I'm telling you that story is if you're a guy that's getting kind of led on, you're stuck on the hook like that, be the guy that tells her to fuck off. Be the guy that stands up for himself. Don't be the guy that comes through apologizing. Hey, I love you. Is it something I did wrong? Hey, can we talk about this? Hey, I miss you. Don't be that guy. Be the guy that when you're getting mixed signals, she's ghosting, flaking, showing signs of, just acting distant. Be the guy that tells her to fuck off. And, sorry about my language again, but I want to put an emphasis on the words that I'm using. The same thing if you're a woman and a guy is doing that to you. Be the person that says fuck off. And the reason why is because it's the only way that you're going to strike any type of fear of loss into them. It's the only way you're going to humble them and make them understand that you're not a toy that can be played with. And believe it or not, there's so few people out there that actually stand up for themselves in that way. They're so afraid of losing the person. They're afraid to stand up for themselves. You'll stand out. You'll stand out as the courageous one. The one that got away. And they might be desperate to keep you around. But you got to have the balls to do that. And those balls should come from the fact that you have enough respect for yourself to say, look, if somebody wants to keep me around, but they're not going to treat me like I'm worthy of a relationship, I'm just going to assume the worst. I'm just going to take it as disrespect and they can fuck off. And you can tell them that too. Say, I'm not a toy to be played with, right? You're not just going to, I'm not putting up with bullshit. And that's the best way to go. It's a zero tolerance policy. It's a no bullshit policy. That's what I'd recommend there. But alright guys. Feels weird taking the sunglasses off when you gotta adjust your eyes to the normal light. Guess I'm gonna go ahead and shut this one off. But I hope this was enough information to get you through the day. And maybe I'll see you tomorrow. That's about it for tonight, guys. Until next time. See ya.